August, a few years ago you had a near-death experience during a major heart operation. What was the history and how did this all come about? Yes, I had surgery in 2014. I was 60 at the time. And as to the story, it happened on the Wednesday before Ascension Day, when a 21-centimeter long blood clot developed in my body and lodged in a ventricle, whereupon it had to be removed by means of an emergency operation at a heart clinic. Initially, this operation was meant to take only 4 hours, but due to a number of circumstances, a 3-hour post-operation was to follow. I was connected to a heart-lung machine, and this means that I was no longer dependent on my own heart. I was kept alive by this machine instead, so to speak. During this time, I suddenly found myself together with many others in a long line, one behind the other, and marching across a field. What did these beings look like? Well, I saw no faces, but to me they were obviously people. They could also have been souls or beings, possibly disembodied. I don't know. You perceived contours? I saw them as people, that's right, but as I said, moving in a long line, one behind the other, and I was somewhere amongst them. The whole situation was very stressful for me. It was excruciating, in fact, because it kept getting hotter and hotter. And this was a real torture for me, and I was afraid of not being able to bear it any longer. So I wanted to die. What kind of torture was it? Were you in pain? No, I just had a feeling of heat and of total discomfort, which made me say I would like to die. But something prevented me from expressing this sentence. So I went on in the group, but over time, these fellow sufferers gradually vanished, until I was, in a way, alone. Then, suddenly, I was able to speak again. So I was able to compose the sentence, "Why, after all, is it so hot?" And a voice on the wayside answered me, "So that you don't suffocate. Just keep walking." Whereupon I suddenly found myself together with a companion, and together we were walking through a garden, towards a garden gate. The garden gate had the shape of a round arch that was wreathed with flowers. This companion hugged me and instructed me to go through the gate, then to take the path to the right behind the gate. Well, after I had passed through the gate, the heat suddenly let up and I felt much better. So after having passed through this gate, I felt my physical condition had indeed improved. This was pretty much all I can share as an experience from that time. So tell me, what were your surroundings like? I only remember a flat plain that we were walking across. No surroundings, no mountains, for example, no plants, no trees. The first plants I saw were the ones in the garden, as well as the ones wreathing this arch. This was the first thing I saw which was different from this plain we were walking across. And do you remember this companion? No, not at all. All I remember of him is being a body, but unfortunately I could see neither a face nor the height of a body nor any clothing. Or just maybe I can't remember this at all anymore. Did you have the impression you were wearing your own clothes? This wasn't the case either. I just knew that it was me. So I had an awareness of, I am here. Initially, in the midst of all those people moving in a line, and later on, it was also me who was led out of there by this companion. Do you still remember this voice? I think it was rather male. How did you experience the return into your own body? Actually, I didn't consciously experience anything in this respect. I did not consciously experience this transition into this row of people either. I was just suddenly in their midst, so I saw all these people from a bird's eye view, so to speak, and myself in their midst. And thereafter, in this garden, I consciously perceived myself as an observer, being together with the companion. Something I have also told my colleagues before is that when a football player is substituted in a football match, the coach normally stands at the edge of the field with his arm around the player, instructing him what to do. So my companion has done the same with me. I felt that in so doing, he was reintegrating me back into life. The decisive event for me was that I couldn't say, I want to die. Later on, I thought about it a lot, and when it came to asking, why is it so hot? My voice was working again. The voice coming from the wayside, telling me, so that you don't suffocate, was definitely a male voice. Do you have some more memories of this garden, except for the one of this round gate wreathed with flowers? No, not consciously. I just wanted to express that it was clear to me, indeed, that there is a garden, because I was walking toward this garden gate. Such semicircular arches are often seen on garden gates. So when one leaves a garden, one emerges onto a road or a path, you might say. August, when thinking back on your experience, did you also think about the meaning this experience has, what symbolism it might hold? I've thought a lot about the fact that I had been sent back to earthly life. I spent many nights and hours thinking about why I was able to exit the whole thing, why I was allowed to live on. Do I have a special task to fulfill? So for me, this was a period of reflection that took many hours. This was one thing. Apart from this experience actually didn't have much impact on my life. So now, as before, I live the way I did before this experience. Nevertheless, what happened did force me to reflect. For example, the instruction that I should go along the path to the right. What does that mean? Did the one instructing me intend to show me the right path to take? So to recognize it, or what else is behind it? I haven't been able to figure this out yet. Tell me, did your worldview change to some extent by virtue of this experience? Well, my worldview hasn't changed much because I already knew about these things, not from my own experiences, but from accounts or other sources of tradition, or from, how should I put it, knowledge acquired so far as to maybe or probably there is life after death. I don't know what stage I was in, whether I already was dead, or whether I was on the way to a death-like state of being, or whatever, you see. But in this case, this was, of course, an evidence for me that there most probably must be a life after earthly life. That's how I feel about it, because otherwise it wouldn't have made sense. For example, to walk across this field just as I experienced it. This was my concept, and it is still now. August, thank you very much for the interview.